Awesome.
Some people like
So-
it still.
That's true.
I mean, not us, but you know.
Oh, so I can share screen. I'm trying to figure this out. I can share my screen, but can I do something with? Is this the only platform I can use this on? It may be. Well, if it is, then that's fine. Okay, this is all a big test. This is all a big test. So I am gonna do what I do with this, just to kind of figure out everything and move around this platform because I want to do more on what's this YouTube
Yeah.
than I do on other platforms. So, hello, I'm Crystal Courtney. Welcome to my live on YouTube. Um, New timeout lengths. You can now put people in timeout for different lengths, ranging from 10 seconds to 24 hours. You can chastise people on this platform. I like that. Welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy and abide by our community guidelines. I probably should have read that before I got on here, right? Yeah, probably. Um, but there are some things I want to do on here. Let me go to what I want to. I don't even know if I can find it. Ew. There was this. I want to do video sharing. Maybe there was this video I saw on. Um, it was Mark Lyman or Hyman. Mark Hyman. He's a MD, and he was talking about SIBO. And what it is it's small intestinal bacteria. Bud, thank you so much. Appreciate you for taking me outside to get some food. SIBO is a small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. And he was talking about this SIBO. And it was a really nice um, interview that he was doing with this medical doctor that was talking about it, and I'm hoping I can find it. Mark Hyman, bear with me because this is my first time using this platform, period, for anything really. Live, go live on here. It's an MD, and hopefully I can find. He's made a lot of videos. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find this one. Get pricing and availability. Oh, he does. Uh, okay, eat food to increase gut health. Eat these foods to improve gut health. Maybe that was it. I tried going back through my timeline to see. Oh, okay, I found it. I need to share my screen so you guys can see this too. Share screen. Google Chrome would like to record this computer screen and audio. So I have to approve this. I need to get a glass. I just went to the store. I got some food. I got a sack paneer that was not good. Their paneer is made the way they make it at Gaylord's in Chicago, which is my favorite Indian restaurant in the world. And I say that, well, maybe in the state. Well, I haven't tried it in the world, so It's right now. It's my favorite Indian restaurant in the world. I found a restaurant in Atlanta. They have sag paneer on their menu, but it has sweet flavor, which I hate sweet food. I do not like sugar. Sugar should not be in food unless it's something that should be um, something that should be sweet. Okay, I think I found this. Um, oh, there it is. Okay, so this is on YouTube, and he's talking about these. Um, let's see, can I make this larger? He's talking about SIBO, and the thing with SIBO is that a lot of people have it and don't know what to do with it, don't know how to adjust for it. Um, so I want to talk about that today. All right, bear with me, y'all, because I'm trying to figure it all out. I may have to make this small. Gee, the technology. Okay. All right, let me move a couple things around so I can get this started. All right, perfect.
Bad bugs growing in the small intestine where they should be sterile that have an impact on our health. So what are the symptoms? How would people know they have?
All of this is talking about changing your diet to prevent SIBO. All right, what SIBO is, it's small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. And I want to just go through some of this information that he talks about with this doctor. And I couldn't get the doctor's name, and I wasn't going to go back. I don't even think he put it in there because I went back a couple times and I couldn't find it. But basically, it's bad bugs that grow in the small intestines. Okay. It's bad bugs that grow in the small intestines. So your large and your small intestines, let me explain a little bit what they do. Your large intestines house your waste. Your small intestines is where your absorption um, is pulled from your food, from the nutrients of the food that you eat. So you eat your food, it's going through your stomach, it goes on your esophagus, it goes to your stomach, it goes into your small intestines. There, your body extracts all of the nutrients that it needs from food through your small intestines. Whatever your body doesn't use as nutrients, it goes through your body through your large intestines. Okay? Your large intestines house your waste until you eliminate, and then it goes out through your large intestine. So the last part of your intestines is your large intestines. And you can have bacteria in both your small and your large intestines. So that's a little bit of information so you know what they're talking about.
Have it, and what kinds of problems are they connected to? And let's kind of get deep into what our approach to diagnosing and treating it's going to be.
Sure. So, I just want to be a little cautious here because we're jumping right into talking about a disease.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's not a disease.
SIBO,
It's a phenomenon.
It's a phenomenon
that actually causes all sorts of other problems.
Right. We do have to give things labels, but it is a phenomena that's connected to many different parts of our body, and getting somebody better involves the whole lifestyle spectrum, and it involves us using something in the functional medicine realm that we call the matrix. And the matrix is looking at not diagnoses, but conditions.
Okay.
Let's talk about the matrix.
Yeah.
He goes into this matrix of how things work. I really didn't want to go through that, but I'm not sure if I'm able to get through the timestamps. Let me see. Okay, maybe. Okay, I may be able to. Maybe not. Don't look like I'm gonna be able to. We gotta play this out. Sorry.
Yeah.
Tell us more about
Yeah.
what is the matrix?
Yeah.
How does it differ from traditional diagnosis? And
So
why do we use it?
for me to tell you about the matrix, you have to swallow the red pill, the blue pill. Which one do you want to swallow?
I think I'll take the red pill.
Okay, take the red pill. That's the right pill. Okay. So anyhow, now I can tell you about the matrix. So the matrix is basically a construct that we have in our minds where when you uveitis, migraines,
lupus,
they don't
whatever.
become the endpoint. They become part of the narrative of your disease. And we put it together into a story we call the matrix. And so we look at assimilation, which is the gut. We look at energy that takes us from, an idea of fatigue. We rattle it down on our brain to what are the things in the body that control energy, right? And so we think about mitochondria. When we think about energy, we think about toxins. How do toxins influence the rest of your well-being?
Okay. It's still not at the point that I wanted at. Okay. But SIBO, which is the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, it causes all types of issues. Okay. So it causes problems in the body if it's not dealt with. And it's an easy fix. Some of the problems that it causes are symptoms as bloating, distension of the belly, where you feel like you have a food baby. They talk about this a little bit. It causes pain in the gut where you don't feel like you're fully evacuating. You feel like you've had the bowel moved, but there's still something left. It's not coming out. Also, it causes fatigue, it causes depression, it causes inflammation, it causes joint pain. All of these are associated with SIBO. That's SIBO, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. Change your bacteria, the SIBO goes away. Change your diet, the SIBO doesn't come back. So this is an easy fix. So I'm hoping they get into it quickly. This is a new platform.
We think about our transport system, our blood vessels, our lymph drainage, and the connection between and we think about the hormonal system, neurotransmitters to adrenals to thyroids, and we place this all in our mind, and then we make the connections.
Yeah.
We say, okay, what's SIBO? Okay, well, it's going to be symptoms: bloating, distension.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you've used the term "food baby." There's something always in my gut.
Yeah, when you have a food baby, and you feel your belly bloat up. That's called SIBO.
Right, that is SIBO. You don't feel to how your gut feels. I had that food baby. I'm anxious. I feel depressed. It impacts my ability.
And it can link to all sorts of other diseases, right?
Fatigue. And then when we think about fibromyalgia, we need to think.
Okay, so he speaks of fibromyalgia, but also Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease is directly affiliated or directly connected with your gut health, your colon health. That's what I've been doing for the past 30 years. Colon health. Parkinson's, celiac, SIBO, all of these issues can be rectified by cleaning out the colon, repairing the colon with herbs, and keeping it well with the food that you're eating. But we don't like to, make changes. We rather go get medication. We want to get medicine, and we want this medicine to do the miracle work of doing what it needs to do for our systems, when there is no miracle cure that you're going to get from a doctor. Doctors don't cure anything. They treat. And they treat forever until you're no longer around for them to treat anymore. So there's that. Medication, such as Prozac, makes it worse. Stress makes it worse. Anti-acid blockers makes it so much worse. So these are the experts. I've been saying this stuff for years, but because I don't have MD behind my name, people discredit it. That's why I'm bringing these videos to you, so you can see the experts. The experts tell you what I've been telling you for years. All right, back to the video.
think about the gut and what's been impacted there. And we think about Parkinson's. 50% of people with Parkinson's actually have SIBO.
Yeah.
Now,
Asthma,
right? And we don't know.
autoimmune diseases.
We know there's an observational connection there. We don't know anything about causality, but it's something you have to consider when you're thinking about other diseases. So the fatigue, the brain fog, the potential inflammation and joint pain, all of the gut issues, that's SIBO.
Yeah.
And a lot of SIBO, we don't know all the causes. There used to be some standard ideas what the causes were, but now we know that it's hard to determine. So the use of proton pump inhibitors and other
acid blockers like Prilosec, Prevacid, all that stuff.
And then
Okay. So coming up next, Mark Hyman, who is he's an MD, he's a medical doctor, and he mentions that while he was in medical school, they were taught that these acid blockers were so strong. They were so strong that they completely shut down the acid in the stomach. Okay, and that people were not supposed to be on these for a long time. Okay, a patient was only he mentions that they told them when they were selling them these drugs that you never want to have a patient on these drugs any longer than 6 weeks. And they kind of chuckle about how now people are on them for 6 decades. Okay. Listen to this.
And we have stress plays a major role. And so that's some of the cause. That's what SIBO can look like. And now how do we address it? How do we get people
I'm just going to
better?
back up for a second.
Yeah.
You mentioned these acid blockers because, they're given out like candy. You can buy them in the drugstore. They're over the counter now. And people think they're safe and fine. I remember when I went to medical school, they just came out and we were told by the drug reps, these are very strong drugs. They completely shut down acid in the stomach. You never want to give them more than 6 weeks. And now people are on them for 6 decades, and what they do is pretty frightening. Literally, they will help your heartburn, but the side effects, which are not really side effects, they're effects. We just don't like them. So we call them side effects, are blood.
Okay. So to get into these effects again, and these are effects. This is the result of taking these. Not, I'm taking these and these are the side effects. No, those are not the side effects. This is what happens when you take them, period. Side effects? No, these are the effects. And I'm glad he said that and made that clear because people don't understand that. These are the effects, people. When you do one, you're going to get 2. This is what's going to happen, period. So he's going to go on and he's going to talk about how they give medication to help the heartburn. He also talks about the effects of taking them and what they are: the bloating, the diarrhea, the abdomen pain, the extension, that food baby, all of those problems. He's going to talk about the causing of the bones to actually deteriorate. Okay, that's crazy. And he's going to talk about the prevention of B12 absorption. It causes taking these acid blockers. They cause a prevention of the zinc not to be absorbed. You can't absorb zinc when you're taking these. You cannot absorb minerals when you take these blockers. Mineral absorption and vitamin absorption is not happening. So we don't even take supplements. Most of us don't take supplements. I take supplements because I know we need to supplement our diet because we don't get everything in our diet. And I have a decent diet. But the majority of us don't have a decent diet. We're eating out, we're eating fast food all the time. So we're not getting the nutrients we need from our diet. Now, we're not getting any of the nutrients we need because we're taking these drugs that block the little bit of nutrients we possibly could be getting, even if we were eating something that had nutrients in it, if you understand what I'm saying. So we're not getting it all the way around. Okay, so I'm gonna let him tell you.
Bloating and diarrhea and distension, all the SIBO symptoms. And by the way, they cause osteoporosis and pneumonia and prevent B12 absorption and zinc absorption and mineral and magnesium absorption. So they're not exactly the safest
I
things on
just
the
have to
planet.
say this, Mark, and is that this is the concern we all have for medicine when we've been unplugged, and this is the issue. Dedication to our patients to support sick lifestyle that perpetuates disease.
Yeah, love those.
Did you all hear that? He said that this country's structure supports a sick lifestyle, and that it supports it perpetuating the disease. So it's supporting a sick culture, a sick lifestyle, and it's perpetuating the disease. And these are medical doctors talking about this. The next thing he's going to talk about is the medication commercials that we hear. They're really quick, may cause this, could cause that, may do this, may do that. He's going to hit on that for a minute. And then the other thing that I found that was very interesting about this talk was he then gets into talking about how we can make these changes and how we can actually heal our systems with the food that we're eating. And he talks about how we change people's lifestyle to make it a healthier lifestyle, to prevent the diseases. They always say that there are no cures, but there are cures. They can't cure you, but there are cures. So I found that interesting, and this is where they're going to start talking about that.
Advertisements on TV where they're like, "Don't worry, eat your sausage and peppers, and don't worry, just take this Prevacid or Prilosec, take the purple pill." It's ridiculous.
It is, and so but on the functional medicine side, here's where the hard work is. Changing the lifestyle to make it a healthy lifestyle so people can, be healthy, prevent disease. If they do get sick, then we help them change lifestyle because that can impact disease more than anything else. And then for people who are well or have gotten better, we can use lifestyle to optimize their aging. And again, using a term I've heard you use, age young, and that's part of what we do here at the Ultra Wellness Center, the whole spectrum: prevent, treat, and then help people optimize and age young.
So prevent the disease, optimize their health to allow them to age young, to actually start aging backwards, to heal the body. Hey, Tamara, how you doing? Yep, sounds about right, girl. This is what it is, right? So he talks about next the test for SIBO. Right. He talks about the test for SIBO at this point, and he talks about that the doctors don't test for this particular, they don't do this particular test that will help finalize or figure out what it is that people have problems. It's like your doctor has the ability to think through problems. That's what you want. You want a doctor who thinks through problems, and generally doctors don't do it, but functional medicine doctors do. Their whole job, their whole process of thought pattern is to think through different issues that could be addressed, the reasons why. What else he talks about? Functional doctors think differently than other medical doctors that have gone to medical school. And he mentions that what they do is name it. They name the disease. They blame the disease on the name of the disease. Then they tame the disease. So that's the whole game. Name it, blame it, and tame it. Name the disease, blame the name of the disease for the problem, and then treat or tame it by treating it with a drug. So
my goal is to die young as late as possible.
So back to the SIBO thing,
Yeah.
right? It's so once we make that, now how do we make the diagnosis? So I always tell people tests are good, but there's no perfect tests. And your cognition, your doctor's ability to think through problems is the most important thing that they
Well,
can
that's
do
what we
for
do
you.
in functional medicine, right?
We think.
We are thinking differently.
Thinking all the time.
My mentor, Sid Baker, who's one of the leading, I think, medical minds of the last century, who's really pioneered a lot of the visionary concepts of functional medicine. He says we're in the name it, blame it, and tame it game. We name and blame. We name the disease, then we blame the name for the problem, and then we tame it with the drug. So we say, oh, you're sad and hopeless and helpless. You have depression. That's what's wrong with you. No, it's just the name of what's wrong with you. It's not the cause.
Right.
Then we go, oh, I know what you need. You
Right.
need an antidepressant. And that's
Right.
like, it just doesn't make sense. Instead of what we do in functional medicine, it's called thinking and linking.
Right.
We actually,
think and link constantly.
everybody, thinks you treat the same disease with the same treatment. And in functional medicine, you can have 10 people with migraines, or
treat
10,
everyone differently.
Everybody's different,
Absolutely.
right? 10 people with lupus, and everybody's treated differently because you're looking at what the root cause for them is. And
Right.
I think that's really profound.
Yeah.
And I want to get back to the SIBO thing, but I just want to come back to the matrix because that's such a.
Okay, so before they continue, wanted to talk about a little about the functionality of it in functional medicine, how they are looking at the root cause. One of my, since I know you're here, sis Tamara, one of our doctors, we share the same doctor, Dr. Lamont Freeman, who is a chiropractor, and he's a chiropractor, and he's also a functional practitioner. He's a naturopath. And what he does, so the difference between naturopath and chiropractor is a chiropractor, if you have a pain in your arm, so you go to the chiropractor because your arm is hurting. He's going to, do what he has to do, adjust it, and he is going to get it to stop hurting. So, and that's what a chiropractor does. But a naturopath is going to find the root cause of that pain, be it physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. He's going to figure out what caused that to begin with. And that's what he's going to deal with, the root of the pain, the root cause of the pain. If you are in the Chicago area, Dr. Lamont Freeman is at 4427 South Michigan Avenue, and his phone number is 773-624-0796. You can tell him that you saw Crystal, Courtney, the cleansing chick, and I recommended that you go see him to get your not only structural alignment together, but also he can deal with that energy, bringing up the energy, bringing up the chi, helping the body to heal itself properly, and deal with those issues that have not been dealt with so the body can actually heal. His hours are 9 to 4, very flexible, 9 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He takes a break and he starts again from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. So he's in Chicago again. The number is 773-624-0796, and he's 4427 South Michigan. And I will repeat that again. So if you didn't get a chance to write that down, grab your pens. I'll mention it again before I get off. So the next part in this interview, they're going to talk about lifestyle changes and how lifestyle changes are hard, but change is necessary for things to get better. And it's so true. Like, lifestyle changes are only hard as you make them. If you're ready to make the changes, then the change is going to happen. It's only hard when you say to yourself it's hard. But when you know why the changes should be made, it makes it a lot easier. When you know why, you know your why. Like, I'm not eating this because this is going to happen, or I'm not going to eat this because this comes from that, and I don't want that in my body. The more information you have, the easier it is to make those decisions. So it's not hard. It's only as hard as your mind tells you that it is. All right, so we talked about that. Yeah, he mentions that people who make these changes, they stick with it because they see how fast, how quickly they begin to feel better, and how quickly the body actually heals itself, how quickly things start to change. And when you see rapid changes like that within weeks, months, when you see those quick changes, you're like, why didn't I do this sooner? Like, why didn't my doctor tell me about this? Why didn't he ever say? I've been going to him for years. And this is what my clients tell me to come in and see me. I've been going to my doctor for years about this. How is it that I've been only coming to you for a couple months and it's like the problem has gone away completely? Well, sick care is different than health care, period. Tamara says Dr. Freeman is excellent. Sauna and the Canadian leaf. I don't think that's the name of it. The Canadian leaf. It's the leaves. I know you did the natural leaves. It's what is it? I can't think of it right now. But it goes back to the sweat lodges. And it's the leaf that they put together to hit the skin to bring up the blood flow, blood circulation. I can't think of the name of it, but it'll come to me in a minute. I'll look it up if I have to.
The key concept. And you described all these biological networks, assimilation, which is the gut, defense and repair, the immune system, energy, how we make energy, detoxification, our transport system, our circulation, our communication systems, hormones, our transmitters, our structural system. And all those are influenced by our lifestyle, by our thoughts, our feelings, our relationships, our diet, our exercise, our sleep, all those things.
Intrinsic relationship.
Yeah. And then they're also influenced by external factors like toxins, allergens, bad bugs, stress, poor diet. And those impact our genes to change the expression. And so we have basically our inputs that are a problem and then our lifestyle, and that causes disturbances in these systems. And no matter what disease you have, we use this model, and every single chronic disease and even many acute diseases are caused by disturbances in our biological systems.
Absolutely.
And that is what functional medicine is so unique at diagnosing and treating in a totally new way.
Absolutely. And so it's that constant work around the matrix. And one of the things that I said earlier is functional medicine is hard medicine. It's hard for the doctor. It's hard for the patient.
Yeah, because you have to think.
Right. And you're constantly thinking. And as you treat, the environment of the patient changes. So you begin the treatment plan, and the patient comes back with a particular response. And that response was based on what is their lifestyle? What part of the lifestyle have they been able to change? Because it's a real struggle for people to change lifestyle. That's hard work. And then, what are their genetics? And how are their genetics? Because we, use a lot of genetic testing here that help us identify that. And so once they come back and they've responded to our first step of treatment, then we go around the matrix again.
Yeah.
And we rebalance and we look, okay.
It's like tailoring, you adjust every time they come in.
It's like a fine watch, and you're just constantly working the gears, asking questions, having them tell their story again, retell their story. I can't tell you how many times I have sat in an hour and a half initial visit, only to have the patient come back over Zoom or a physical visit to the office, and I ask them the same questions, and all of a sudden they're in a different place, and I get a different answer that opens up a whole new realm of thinking about their disease, their health, and even their goals for their life. So every time I go around the matrix, I get that person better and better and better.
So we don't treat 155,000 diseases. We just work with optimizing our biological systems in the matrix. That is the key to functional medicine. So that in a way, it's very simple, but it's also very unique because each patient's different. And for the patient, some of the changes are hard because we're asking people to change their diet or take different supplements. But the truth is that it's actually, ends so much suffering and helps them so much that people are so excited about it. They do it. And so it's actually, in many times, very easy for patients to change because they see the results so quickly. So let's talk about the SIBO. Let's get back to SIBO and talk about this.
Okay, you mentioned stress. Stress is a huge trigger. And a lot of people can't get healthy or can't heal themselves because of all the stress. You gotta get to a point at some point where you have to say you just can't give a fuck about some things that go on in your life, because if you're a person that everything bothers you and everything is an issue, you're gonna stay sick. You're never gonna get better because you're constantly stressing yourself out about things that are either out of your control, or if you have control over it, then just make the change. If you don't have control over it, let it go. Let it go. Like, if you don't have control over it, then hey, it's going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. Yeah, that's my thing. Like, everything always work out the way it's supposed to work out. Look over your life, all the stuff that you in the past have stressed about. Things work out the way they're supposed to. And most of the time they work out the way you want them to. If you're thinking in that wise, if you're looking towards it working out in your favor, it generally does. All right, back to the video.
It's cases.
Yeah.
I think we should share some cases.
We should,
give an example of what we're talking about. Because it's kind of abstract.
I would say that very rarely do I see SIBO by itself. And why is that? Because Mark, you've already talked about it. It's the microbiome. Right? When the microbiome is disordered, as it is in SIBO, and you have these bacteria growing where they shouldn't grow, and so you're now changing how food is processed. You are changing where it's processed, and you're changing the body's ability to absorb it. And what we know about the microbiome is those bacteria actually train our immune system. They're very closely related to our immune system. And our immune system identifies antigenic material from the bacteria, and the bacteria is able to tell the immune system, here's what you need to be worried about, here's what you don't need to be worried about.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we alter that gut immunity, we can create inflammation, and when we create inflammation, we begin to break down that membrane that's responsible for opening and closing and letting good compounds and good nutrients in and keeping the bad guys out.
Yeah.
When that breaks down, we have leaky gut. And now all of a sudden, our immune system starts to see proteins that have not been completely processed down to the peptide level that they're accustomed to, and they start making antibodies against commonly eaten foods.
Yeah.
So now this person with SIBO is sensitive to a plethora of foods that they eat every day, which they might not be allergic to those foods, but they're sensitive to them. So now they're not eating. So they're coming with all these symptoms. It gets exacerbated by almost everything they eat in their diet. And because now the disease
or they're
process,
eating and they don't know what to do not eat because just everything bothers them.
Right. And so now they can come in that sick. Now that their immune system's triggered, they have muscle aches, they have joint pains, they have brain fog, because now they're having they have fatigue, their mitochondria are being affected, their brains are.
Now, these are all of the symptoms that people come to me often for. It's all gut health. It's all bad bacteria in the large intestines, in the gut. And they're going to get into that. It's the microbiome. It's the good bacteria. You have good bacteria and you have bad bacteria in your intestines, in your gut. Generally, most people have 80% good. 80% bad. And you want to change the dynamic. You want more good bacteria than you want bad bacteria in your gut. And that makes a big difference. And some of these examples that they're about to give you are going to talk about how they were able to change a person's whole dynamic, whole thinking, whole life with just changing the gut bacteria. So what I do with colonics is I take out the bad bacteria. And then it gives the body a chance to just put in a lot of good bacteria to quickly change that dynamic. So we'll go back to the video.
Inflamed, they're being affected. So now this person comes in and they may say to me, I have brain fog. I have this, I have that. I get the whole story and I hear the gut. Always start in the gut, right? So now what do we do? When they tell me there's symptoms, we order a test. It's called a small intestinal.
Before you get into the test, I just want to recap because what you said was so profound.
I love this recap.
Which is that
I like being profound. Thank you.
No, it's a total frame shift. So most doctors don't think much about the gut unless you have direct digestive symptoms, and even when you do, they treat it kind of in a very linear way. But what you're saying is when those bugs that should be in our large intestine migrate up to the small intestine for various reasons, it causes an imbalance in there, and that leads to a breakdown in the barrier, which causes this leaky gut. And then all these foreign proteins and bacterial components leak into the system. Your immune system.
All right. I had to stop this for a second. He's talking about the brain-gut barrier and how these toxins are leaking into the gut. This is how you get worms, parasites into the brain. This is how people become unstable mentally. I talk to people and I can tell when I'm talking to people like, you ever heard that expression, having shit for brains? Yeah. So most people have garbage leaking from their colons that's crossing the gut brain gut barrier and they're seeping into their brains from their gut. So your gut or your large intestine is also known as your first brain. It's seeping from the first brain to your head brain, which is causing the issues of people having mood swings, being irritable, just being mean, not, people who, I swear, I think if you look at murderers and killers and people who do bad things to people, they have to have that brain gut barrier has to be dead. Like they're getting shit, toxins, bad microbes to their brain because they can't think the way a normal person thinks. All these kids, especially in Chicago, that's doing whatever, whenever, eating garbage all the time, eating processed foods all the time, they have no brain gut barrier blockage. They're getting that shit straight to the brain and they can't function, they can't think. All right, back to the video.
System goes, that's not me. And it starts creating a response. And then you get systemic inflammation, which is why you get brain fog and muscle aches and fatigue and joint pain, all these things, skin rashes, eczema, acne, whatever. And people think these are all not connected, but they are connected.
That's why SIBO is such a great topic to start with.
Yeah.
Because it connects the entire matrix.
So tell us how we test for it. Now let's get into a case.
Okay, so testing will be with a breath test. It's called a SIBO breath test, and we starve you for a day. Basically, we want to starve out those bacteria that are living in the small intestine, so they become metabolically inactive. And then you wake up in the morning and you take some lactulose, which is
like a non-absorbed sugar.
Non-absorbed sugar. But before you do that, you breathe into a little balloon, and then we put that aside as your baseline.
So they starve you for a day, then they give you sugar, and that brings out the parasites. Parasites like sugar. They love sugar. So if you're eating sugary foods and pastas and bread, all that turns into sugar. And that's what they eat on. That's why they can grow into large parasites. And I can pull them out of the colon because they're growing from the sugar you give them. So they starve you for a day. So they're getting no food. Then you get a little sugar and then now they're coming out because they're eating and they're feeding on what they love, which is the sugar.
Test. Then you drink the sugar drink, and now the bacteria are like, we got some food. We're excited. We were starving out, thought we were doomed. And then they get very metabolically active. And then within 30 minutes or 60 minutes, when they're metabolically active, they start producing the exhaust of their metabolism. Hydrogen, and then sometimes methane, and even sometimes sulfur gases.
So it's not just the cows that are burping methane?
Nope.
Humans?
Nope. Yep.
And this is how you get gas from the parasites. They're belching out, all that stuff's trapped in you. I go in, put some water in the colon, we're getting out the gases, we're bringing out this waste, we're bringing out the parasites.
Uncle Art's been belching.
So if you have
methane.
SIBO, you're contributing to climate change, is that it?
Yep. That was going to be when we get to the magic wand question. I'll talk about my wife. Anyhow, so
there's also other tests like urine tests. You can look at metabolites.
Right. Yep. You can look at So we can look at metabolites that will show us markers for dysbiosis in the gut using an organics test. So an organics test is when we look at all the organic acids that are products of your metabolism, and so we're able to tell. We know what should be, in the metabolism appropriately, and we can look at organic acids, and we do that as a part of our GI workup.
Which is a test that traditional doctors don't do. They'll do the traditional breath test, but they're not going to do an organic acid test.
Organic acid test or something even more advanced called an ion profile that looks at all of your amino acids. And that's important when I do a SIBO workup, because if I look at your amino acids and you're depleted, then I know you're really in trouble with your SIBO because you're not getting good nutrition. You're not absorbing.
Okay, so let's talk about the amino acids. And this is the organic test that the doctor will not do for SIBO. Now, it just baffles me that there are tests that they can get specific information and they refuse to do them. So it's the organic acid test that traditional doctors will not do. the amino acids are low, and then you're not absorbing your nutrients. So your nutrients is low. If the acid shows up in if the acids show up and it's too much, if there's an overgrowth of bad bacteria, that's an indicator. So if the acid shows up, then they know that, hey, there's an overgrowth, so you'll have some problems in that area. And you're not absorbing your nutrients if those acids are present. So if the doctors just did that test and they can see that they're there, they can understand why the body's not healing, because your body is not being able to absorb the nutrients from your food. And that there's an overgrowth of bacteria, be it bad bacteria, be it fungi, be it yeast. And he's going to get into some case studies, which will kind of bring everything around and put some light on all of it, make it make sense.
Yeah.
And then I can see markers of inflammation on the ion test.
Yeah.
I can also see the organic acids are really critical, because there are things that the bacteria produce that will end up in our urine that indicate to us that, wow, those things are in the urine because you have bacteria overgrowing or don't belong in your gut.
Yeah.
And now we find out.
I think you're right. I'm going to jump in with a
Yeah.
case that just reminded me of a little girl I saw years ago who was 9 years old, and she was a pretty little sweet looking girl,
Right.
who was a monster, like a terror. She would constantly get kicked out of class. She literally couldn't make it home on the bus without the bus driver having to stop 10 times to settle her down. She was violent. She would rip, her pictures of a part of her family at home. She would terrorize her sister. And I'm like, what's going on with this girl?
Right.
And we did a whole workup, and we found her organic acid test. And we found she had massive levels of overgrowth of bacteria.
Yep.
And she had overgrowth of yeast, which is not called SIBO, but SIFO, or small intestinal fungal overgrowth. And what I did was I gave her an antibiotic and an antifungal, and literally the girl completely transformed. So you think you're treating a psychiatric disorder
Absolutely.
with antibiotics and antifungals. How does that make sense? Well, it makes sense when you understand the connections between the gut and the brain. I mean, this was over 10 years ago, and I remember writing about it in the Ultra Mind Solution. I was like, wow, the gut is so connected. I had another one with OCD, the same thing. She had high levels of ammonia, and she had severe OCD. She wouldn't pick up anything off the floor. I gave her an antibiotic, and literally she became like a neat freak. It was the weirdest thing.
Oh, so in those cases, in the cases I've seen, SIBO is very commonly related to neuropsychiatric disorders. So when I have people with memory loss.
Okay, let me stop this again, just to recap a little bit of what he's saying. He's talking about this connection between the gut and the brain, okay? And then he's talking about a patient of his that had OCD, and that there was high levels of ammonia within her blood. And what he did was put her on probiotics. Now, you have antibiotics and you have probiotics. The doctors, medical mainstream doctors, will put a person on antibiotics, which means it's taking out all of your microbes. It's killing the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. Everything's got to go. A probiotic, it puts in your good bacteria. So one of the things that they used to say about colonics was that it's going to take out your good bacteria. Well, there's 80% bad and only a couple percent good. So it really didn't make a difference if you're pulling out all of the bacteria. They're doing the same thing with the antibiotics, pulling out all of the bacteria, be it good or bad. So what's the difference? If I'm taking out all of the bad bacteria, if I'm pulling out the bad bacteria and I'm putting in good bacteria with probiotics, then you're giving someone a antibiotic, which is killing both the good and bad bacteria. What's the difference, sir? Can you tell me what the difference is? There is no difference. The thing is, I know by being a colon hydrotherapist that you can put in good bacteria, take out all of the bad, add in the good, and the body levels will change, and you'll have 80% good bacteria and maybe only 10% bad bacteria. That's much better than having it the other way around. So I'll let them talk about it. He's going to talk about the memory loss, some of the things. One thing that got me was the ADHD and the autism. And they're going to talk about a little of this, like how kids can be healed from some of these symptoms of ADHD. And it actually the good bacteria, good microbes in the body can help improve the verbal skills of children with Alzheimer's. So, and that's with changing the diet and changing that that good bacteria, those microbes in the gut.
Brain fog, ADHD. Just as you said, I've had multiple patients of mine, right?
Depression.
Autism. The first thing we do is treat their SIBO, change their diet, and within the first 6 weeks, we're starting to see significant change in their behaviors with ADHD and in their verbal abilities with autism kids.
Tell us the case.
So,
now before he gets into this case, why aren't medical doctors treating these children with just good probiotics and diet to get these effects that he's about to talk about right here? He's about to talk about the miracle and how fast these changes happen. Why aren't regular medical doctors seeing any of these changes? Why do we continue to go to them year after year after year after year, expecting some type of change, and we get nothing? And I know the reason. I think it's because we don't want to make these changes. We like what we like. We want to eat what we want to eat, and we don't want to make the changes that it takes to make in order to actually heal the way we need to heal. But that's me. That's my take. That's what I think. I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
I was going to talk about a fibromyalgia case, but I will talk about ADHD. I had actually an anxiety depression case.
Talk about both of them.
Yeah, I'll talk about them all. There's so many cases I could choose from. There is a recent case from a patient from a different part of the world actually came in, and they were having lots of difficulties with their child, very bright siblings, but this particular child was having lots of issues with impulsive behavior, attention in the classroom, moodiness, to the point where the child would speak of not wanting to live anymore. And so I went through all of their symptoms, and the biggest thing that this child had difficulty with was the bloating and the distension. That was constant. Mom noticed it from almost day one of life. So we did not only the SIBO breath test, but we did something called a GI map test, which will look at, it will using DNA and PCR technology, look at all of the bacteria in your gut, the major colonies, the major species, look for candida, and then also look for markers of inflammation. Those two tests.
Okay, so this GI map test, we're going to talk about that for a little bit. He says that it looks for bacteria. He says what they do is take out the junk food in the diet. That means no starch, which means no rice, no pasta, no bread, no sugar or carbs. And those are all the things that parasites love to eat on. And parasites are the worms, the bad worms in the gut. They take all that out. And then they add in some good foods. Okay. So I'll let him go back and talk about, and these are changes for 8 weeks. Okay. 8 weeks.
On this patient indicated severe disruption of the balance of the microbiome. The patient was put on a brief elemental diet, which is a diet that takes out, most foods,
all the foreign proteins,
and then was put on a autoimmune paleo diet. And very difficult to put a kid on a diet
which
like
basically
this.
Starves a lot of the bad bacteria.
Absolutely.
So instead of feeding them with all the starch and sugar and carbs, which they love, you're giving them less of that.
And we combined it with a low FODMAP diet to make sure that the child got all the nutrition they needed.
FODMAP is like what? That's like,
so those are long chain sugars that get fermented very quickly by bacteria, and when you eat them and you have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth,
you get a very big food baby. You're like 9 months pregnant.
Right. And the food baby is this basically. You're fermenting food where you shouldn't be. Food's meant to be fermented in the large intestine, and that's like Florida. right? But what's happening with small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, bacteria are up in Maine, and the food's coming into Maine. Maine's not ready for gas. So now all of a sudden you've got this gas where it doesn't belong geographically. You feel very uncomfortable, and it starts to impact everything we talked about, your nutrition, your inflammation, and that translates to that gut-brain connection. The brain gets affected. That's why we see so much benefit when we this in our patients with neuropsychiatric disorders, from ADHD to OCD to anxiety and depression. And you've noticed it. I know we've talked about even like Parkinson's and other disease processes that will stabilize once we start addressing gut issues.
So what happened to this kid then?
So when we had the 6-week follow-up, and we had started it was actually not the 6-week follow-up, but the 6-week follow-up, we went over all the testing and we started the second part of the nutrition plan. Once we started the nutrition plan, and I used some of that and different compounds that we use, at the 8 weeks later, that child's behavior, the mood swings were completely gone.
Yeah.
Completely gone. The impulsivity.
Some of the antibacterial herbs would be your probiotic, which you can find pretty much anywhere. Go to your health food store, Whole Foods. You can order them online. A probiotic, or a good bacteria, some people call it. You can get it in a liquid. You can get it in a powder. You can get it in a chewable. I think now they have those. Taking that alone helps so much. If you have children, giving those good bacteria to your children will stop diseases and stop issues before they even happen.
Was drastically reduced, and the teachers were saying he was now paying attention in class, and that was just with food. No stimulants. That's remarkable. No stimulants.
It's just herbs like oregano and berberine and thyme and things like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, powerful stuff.
Yeah, and so that's
oregano's very strong.
It's that gut-brain connection. It's so powerful.
Brought back some bad memories because we talk about the food baby. When I got sick from mercury poisoning almost 30 years ago, one of the things mercury does is it interrupts all your enzymes and your function. So my gut became very dysfunctional. And I remember literally having food babies all the time. I literally almost couldn't eat anything without my stomach blowing up and feeling like someone just pumped my intestines up like a bicycle tire.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, we didn't really think about SIBO. We didn't really name it. And we weren't really aggressively treating it. I was trying things that I thought would work. But it was really tough until I got rid of the mercury. I couldn't get rid of the SIBO.
Yeah.
So often there's something underlying.
Yeah.
Right? There's often a root cause.
Yeah.
I've seen people with gut issues that maybe were caused by babesia, for example. It was a tick infection.
Oh, absolutely. So Lyme disease
paralyze the gut.
Right. So if I have a SIBO patient that's not getting better, I think two things. One is I think about Lyme disease, because if one of the symptoms of Lyme.
So Lyme disease, people get, like, a lot of people get it in California. Where they're out and they're like maybe in gardening and there's a lot of foliage and there's a lot of stuff in nature, and they're walking around and unprotected and arms are out, legs are out. They can get it bit by a tick, and that tick carries Lyme, and they get Lyme disease from that. And probiotics is another way to really kind of get the body back in balance. But a lot of people don't do well with Lyme disease. I remember during the pandemic, I was binge watching stuff I'd never watched, and I was watching some episodes of the original Housewives of Beverly Hills, and one of the women had Lyme disease, and it was crazy. Like, she was going through all these medical issues, and her husband left her during this time, and it was really sad. So I wonder, like, how did she function after that? Like, what happened and how did she get back to herself? But she was really, you could see it, like her body was really deteriorating from this disease when, like cleaning out the gut and putting in good bacteria and getting those herbs and like that he talked about, those fungi killing herbs. Tea tree oil is one, oregano oil, and these are very strong herbs that you can just put a couple drops in water for the colonic, and it helps kill some of that bacteria and overgrowth.
Disease, and is a trigger to test somebody for Lyme is when they get Bell's palsy. Lyme disease can affect the nervous system.
Yeah.
And so Bell's palsy is when you have your facial nerve is paralyzed, and it can be caused by Lyme. The same thing can happen in the gut. You can get a paralysis and a dysfunction of the migrating motor complexes, and now the peristalsis of the intestine is declining. The intestine won't move. Now these bacteria can stay there and
Yeah.
populate.
Yeah.
So again, it's all these things.
And
Okay, so the bacteria is staying there and populating, growing, and spreading throughout other, like we already talked about the brain-gut barrier. Those toxins can penetrate the gut barrier and go to the brain. Well, getting a colonic helps pull that bacteria out so it's not crossing the brain-gut barrier and it's actually leaving the system to allow your body to be able to heal itself, because the body naturally wants to heal itself. It just needs to be given the proper environment to. And colonics is the fastest way to get that stuff out of your system in order for your body to do what it needs to do, along with your help with your herbs and,
that's the thing,
impacted.
when you go to a traditional gastroenterologist, you might say, okay, we do the breath test, you have SIBO, take these antibiotics, forget about the
Right.
yeast stuff. And like, I'll see and hope cross your fingers. And there's so many times it fails because they're not getting to the root cause. So
Right.
the root cause may not be SIBO, it might be something that's causing the SIBO,
Right.
like Lyme or like mercury or something
And
else.
there's something else too, going back to lifestyle. When I can't get a person better with SIBO, and I start going around the matrix again, are you sleeping? Are you exercising? How's your marriage? How's your relationship? Do you have a toxic
right.
relationship? Because the
Wow.
people that I've done everything for, I've given them bone broth and colostrum and elemental diets. They're not
Mhm.
getting better.
Mm.
It's the 5th R. We use the 5 R's, right? We use remove, repair, restore, and I can't remember 4.
It's remove,
repair,
replace, reinoculate, repair,
rebalance.
and rebalance.
And the rebalance piece, the 5th R. I call it 5th R. It's the 5th R. It's getting people to rebalance their lives.
Mhm.
And that is basically, are you dealing with your stress? The people that aren't dealing with their stress, aren't getting their sleep, aren't exercising.
And what does stress have to do with your intestines?
That's another podcast.
Come on.
Yeah.
Give us a nugget here.
Okay. So stress. So stress is probably the start of all disease. It impacts everything from your hormones in your own body, but stress actually creates some neurochemical changes in your brain, and there's a communication between your brain and your gut microbiome.
And your gut, it's called the second brain.
It's the second brain.
Right.
Well, some people think the gut was the first brain.
Maybe.
Right. And that our brain only developed once mitochondria. We're starting to make energy for us. And then we're able to use that energy to make a second brain that allowed us to reason and so forth. However, once you have that gut-brain connection, stress can actually, we have this vagus nerve. It's a superhighway from the gut to the brain. And
It's the relaxation nerve.
It's the relaxation nerve. And your brain can communicate anxiety and stress to your gut microbiome and actually change the makeup of your gut microbiome.
Yeah, and your nervous system.
Right,
Your
and
gut.
your nervous
And it literally paralyzes, stress hormones literally paralyze your gut. Your sympathetic.
So back to the stress, and Tamara, you hit on this a while back, that stress is a huge trigger for most disease. And it is, you have to be able to manage stress. Otherwise, you will kill yourself, because nothing will function if your body is stressed. Like, you have to relax for your body to do what it needs to do, for your organs to function the way your organs are supposed to function. If you are dealing with stress all the time, you have a stressful job, you have a stressful home environment, you have stress with your kids, you have stress with your family and friends, you have stress, going to work, you have stress driving home from work, you have stress with the people at work. That's not a good way to live. At some point, you have to be like, fuck all y'all. You have to think about yourself, and you have to be able to, stop thinking about what everybody thinks about you. Like, people take too much consideration of how other people view them. The hell with them people. I can't live my life thinking about what other people are thinking about me, and I refuse to. And the older I get, the easier it gets for me to say, fuck y'all. I don't need you in my life. It gets easier and easier the more I get, because I don't want the stress. I'd rather not. I care too much about me to deal with other people's stuff and me being stressed with other people's things. Usually stress comes with other people's stuff. I'm not doing that. So you have to take some you time, be it bubble baths, be it stretching, be it, it's my son, be it whatever it is. You can't live your life stressed. Hey, baby, I'm on live. How are you?
Good. You see you on where?
I'm on live. You good?
Like Facebook Live or
What is the YouTube live?
something?
Can I call you back?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll call you back. I'm almost done. Okay? All right. Okay, so the stress of life can be controlled through meditation, deep breathing, sleep, get enough sleep. Do something for yourself. You know, do your nails if that helps you. Do some makeup if that helps you. Um, Exercise if that helps you. You know, get in a hot tub, get in a sauna. You know, these are all things that I do to help manage my stress. And then it helps when you just don't give no fucks. When you give zero fucks, that helps. Like I'm empathetic to people, but I'm like, I'm not about to take on everything. I can't. And even with the work that I do, those toxins moving past my body, I have to be able to block that out so I'm not getting all of that energy. You know what I'm saying? Because that's not healthy for me. I have to be able to block things out. And I've learned how to block a lot of stuff out and just not deal with it because I don't want to. So stress, getting that stress under control is so important. And it doesn't mean that you don't have a lot going on. I have a lot going on. So most people be like, oh, you got so much going on. But what I'm doing doesn't feel stressful to me. You know, I'm living in one city. I'm based in another city. I live in Chicago. I'm based in Atlanta. I'm traveling more than I ever have. The average flight attendant works 80 hours a month. I'm working 130 hours a month because I have some goals and some things I need to do. Um, my job is not stressful. I love what I do and I make it fun. I'm in school again full time. So all the things that I do, I see my clients for colon hydrotherapy in 2 different states. I'm seeing clients in Chicago and I'm seeing clients in Los Angeles. And you would think that that would be stressful, but I don't make it stressful. I make it fun. I enjoy doing what I do, so it's not stressful. So it depends on how you look at things, your viewpoint of things, and how you handle things. It doesn't have to be stressful. Even though I have a lot going on, you have to be very cautious of your time, very organized. I'm not that organized. I try to keep up with my dates and keep up with everything I need to keep on and make sure I hit those deadlines and everything on time. But you know, life's, and you have to know how to deal with lifing. And once you master dealing with it and not being overburdened and it feeling like you're overburdened, and you just play the game of life as you're giving it, as you're giving, as it's given to you, and you just deal with it and you just move accordingly, you can actually win at the game of life. It's just really how you view it and keeping a positive mindset.
Nervous system and your fight or flight, you don't want to be digesting your food when you're running from a tiger.
Right.
You want your gut to shut down so you don't have to poop or do anything else.
Right.
So your gut shuts down. And that's what
Right.
happens. We live in a state of chronic stress and our gut's not working.
It's not working. And then you end up with, now you create that environment for SIBO to develop.
Yeah. I just, was talking about SIBO. I just remember this patient I had a few weeks ago was what a striking case. She came in with what we call vestibular migraines, which is essentially a migraine from hell, where your room is spinning around, you're in bed, you're nauseous, you can't get up. And she had it like 25 days a month. And she was a really smart young woman who, wanted to go to graduate school and was basically in bed. And so I started not just asking about her headaches, and she'd seen like 45 doctors and, seen neurologists and everybody. And she was on this medication, nothing was working. So I'm like, what else is going on? Well, I bloated all the time and my belly's distended. And I could see she was puffy and swollen. She gained a bunch of weight. She was severely depressed. She was anxious. And I'm like, this is not a messed up person. This is
No.
a person whose biology is messed
right.
up. And I said, well, let's just try to put you on a clean diet, eliminate all the allergic foods. I gave her a non-absorbed antibiotic and an antifungal, basic nutrients, very simple. And I waited for a test to come back. And she came back in. On the first time she came in, she had to leave the door open. She was so anxious. Her system was so in fight or flight. She couldn't even be in the room. She stood up. She's pacing around. I'd never had a patient like that. She came back 6 weeks later. She looked like a different person. I mean, not only was all the inflammation gone out of her body, all the fluid, not only did she lose 20 pounds, but her gut was normal and she hadn't had a migraine.
Right.
She was completely better. She maybe had 1 or 2 very mild headaches. And when I got her test back, yes, she had SIBO, and I sort of could anticipate based on her history what was going on. But that, that's a case where, she had been seeing doctor after doctor
Right.
after doctor. And these are the kinds of patients we see here, where I often joke.
And this is what kills me. This woman in this case study that he's sharing with us have been going to doctor after doctor after doctor. A functional medicine doctor changes her diet, puts her on a he gave her an antibiotic to kill all of the bacteria, gave her some antifungal medication, and sent her on her way. And she was like changed. Changed. Can see the difference just by changing, stop putting in the garbage, kill the bad bacteria that's in there, allow her system to get rid of have some bowel movements, get rid of that crap that's in there, and stop the fungus from growing. Simple.
Because we've been here for about 15 years. Before that, I worked at Kenya Ranch, was the medical director. And I always joke I was a resort doctor, the doctor of last resort. And that's the kind of patients we see here. Or I joke I'm a holistic doctor because they take care of people with a whole list of patients, a whole list of problems.
Right.
So, and the treatment for this is all the things you mentioned. It's diet.
Right. We start with diet. It's really diet and lifestyle. By the time patients get to me, as I said before, SIBO is just part of the whole complex, because once you've affected diet, then you're affecting how your hormones are working, your autoimmunity, and so forth. So we always start with diet because we can impact all the systems with a good diet. So diet, we can include a FODMAP diet. It can include elemental diet. It can include an autoimmune paleo. And our nutritionists here at the Ultra Wellness Center, we work very closely with. And when a patient is here, after I see them, I will consult with our nutritionist, and we will customize the diet plan for each particular patient that has SIBO. It's not always going to be the same diet.
So that's really important what you said. So we here at the Ultra Wellness Center work as a team.
Absolutely.
And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we have a team from the first a nutritionist and a doctor. How?
Okay. So I like functional medicine more so than traditional. And I think more and more people are getting to functional. And functional medicine, they understand pretty much the basics of it and not treating everything with drugs, because these same drugs that they've had us on, all these same diseases, they have not been able to cure anything or help anybody, especially when you have people going to doctor after doctor after doctor for the same issue for years. They put them on the same medication they've been putting other people on, and no, it's not going to work. When doctors get cancer, they don't go through chemo and radiation because they know what it does. They know what it does. They see what it did to all of the people that they have put it on, and they don't want to go that route because they know it doesn't work. So why do we think that, okay, now we have cancer and do what thousands of people have done before us and it's going to work for us? It doesn't work. So until we start changing our diet and start putting in the things that we need and start taking out the things that's causing the problem and stop putting it in, things are not going to get better. And that's the bottom line. So I don't know when they get into talking about the foods. That's what I'm trying to get to now.
And so our team
the foods
from the first our nurse practitioner who do.
All right, let's see. What's the food?
common that you can do something about
That you
and make a clinical
they're
impact.
actionable.
Right.
They're actionable genes.
And we think, oh, well, that's fine. So you're healthy. But the truth is those only look for diseases.
Yeah. We could, if we want to talk about testing, we can just go down that.
All right.
He is a very, very active gentleman with a great deal of huge responsibilities in his life. Man, very fish eater. But if you look at his detox genes, he had a lot of on his genes. He had a lot of variants that made him susceptible to not being able to detoxify as well as he should. So you and I could go eat sushi the whole week.
Not me. I got genes.
Okay, you got this.
That's why I got mercury poisoning.
Okay, all right. So I could eat it. I don't have an issue with mercury, right? My mercury wasn't high at all. And I love fish. I eat a lot of fish.
So jealous.
Okay, well, so mercury, his testosterone level was 150. So at his age, his testosterone level should be 600.
Not something that's available in the United States, but it can be very powerful treatment.
Yeah. So in his particular case,
where's the food?
Mercury can be hard to bring down. It can rheumatoid arthritis, and help them more than the specialist did because we're looking at everything and we're getting to the root cause. And so in a course of a week, I can see a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old.
All right, so they never get into the food. This is a whole video. This is the end of the video, and they haven't talked about eat these food to improve anything. They haven't mentioned any of that, and we've gone through basically the whole. So I'm gonna have to look up foods and put them in the comments because they don't talk
the body. I know how to treat the system. I know how to treat a human being and look for the root causes. And when you do that, even if you don't exactly understand the disease, it'll often dramatically improve or reverse completely.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Hey, YouTube, if you like this video, you're going to love the next one. Click on it to check it out today.
Because you don't need, what you need to do is to make that part of your life in a natural way.
So if we can get food reimbursed by healthcare, it's a game changer. I'm actually working on that.
They never get into the health. But one thing I am doing this week, okay, this video he made, I may have to redo another video, but do this one next. Maybe they're talking about eat this to starve cancer because they never talked about food in that video. Good night, sis. I enjoyed you being here. Thanks, I appreciate it. And I'll look up these foods and I'll put them in the comments. So if you want to come back and take a look, they'll be there. So I'm going to end this now. Thank you so much. Just want to mention before you run off, the end of this month, the 29th and the 30th, I'll be in Chicago at the Wonderful Woman Convention with Teresa Griffin, and Dr. Terry Mason will be there, and he's talking about food pharmacy. Dr. Terry Mason was over the medical doctor. He's a medical doctor that was over the health of Illinois, like in Chicago. He's one of the top Chicago doctors, and he's plant-based. So this is going to be a good time. If you're able to get through, please do like this video and share it, if you will, especially if you know someone who has celiac disease or you know someone who has children with autism. If they're looking to get some help into changing those dynamics, this may be something that kind of trigger and give them some good information. Okay, so thanks for rocking with me, guys. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. I need to figure out how to close this out now. All right, take care.